No, last time we started the presentation and a bunch of people snuck in behind me.
Well, I thought that I was going to have to do, because I said I'm going to get my walk in first. So I just came in and I said, oh, I got 10 minutes to.
We did.
But you can go and watch it.
Yes, yeah.
That's what I said. Because there's one coming up on DIMS, right?
Yeah, I think so. I have to get the schedule out a little farther than it is actually.
I think I saw that.
Yeah.
That's always a good.
Annual returns that might all be together, or maybe they're two separate ones. But anyway, should have had it before the break chapters. Okay, well, I'll start the presentation here.
Careful, which one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
No, wrong mouse.
Yeah, can I just tell you when
David, hi David, hi Myrna, maybe, and Derek.
Okay.
Okay, well, we'll get started. Thank you for joining us today at, I'm losing track of the number, our Synod Commons. Before I forget, at the end next week, we're having a special guest from the Canadian Bible Society who has asked to speak to as many as possible in the diocese. So I do hope many can join next week as well. And I will send out another email on that. But today it's Phil, our treasurer, and also Shawn, director of mission and ministry, speaking about the diocesan synod grants process. So, over to you.
I'll let you drive, that's right.
Sure.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to everyone. And I know some of you will probably listen to it on recording. We're going to give you really just an update of what the process looks like on diocesan synod grants. Apologies, I mean, this for those of you who might have attended last year, the Parish Officers' Day, we've taken really that presentation and I've just shortened it a bit. So we're sort of saying the same information as we said a year ago, but it's useful to come again and to give you an update and a briefing on the process of how you apply for grants. So I've got about 11 slides that we'll go through. I expect it takes about 15 minutes, and then we can open it up to questions at the end there. So for those of you who are familiar, I'm hoping most of you are, when you access the main website of the Anglican Diocese of Fredericton, you will see at the top a whole series of headers, one of which says resources, which is what this one is showing. You click on that and it drops you into another page with a lot of icons, and you pick one of those tiles, which is the third one along on the top, called financial assistance, which is what those two first are saying. And you'll click on that and you'll come to that page, which is that little snapshot there, which says financial assistance highlighted in orange. And that's the site where you can then look at how you'll apply for various grants. And then underneath that is those words, and that element that's written in red, which says Synod Financial Resources for Parishes. If you're actually on the website, if you hovered over that, the arrow would change to a hand, and you could click on that, and it would then take you into the next page, which is that page, which is the policy that we have for Firstly, obtaining financial assistance. We're not looking to obtain financial assistance, so you'll see the appendixes A, B aren't relevant to this particular topic of discussion, but they are available if you were looking at, as a parish, needing to apply for some sort of shared ministry reduction or relief. What we're focusing on is that third one down, which says Appendix C, and then the third bullet point down, which says consolidated application for Synod grants and loans. So we have a process where we have a series of grants and loans that you can apply for, and we tend to link them in with the application, particularly around the Anglican Foundation of Canada, because we have an ability to apply through AFC and to receive grants from that body, which is a body that allows pretty much all Anglican dioceses to apply for funding grants. So it's a useful mechanism. And you'll see right at the bottom, we tend to link it in with their application process. They have 4 timelines that we can apply for. We tend to try and link into 2, mainly because in doing an AFC application, we need council approval, and our council meets periodically, and we can't often link in with some of those timelines. So you'll see that the application deadline we've got for this current round is 9th of March. We pushed it out so that we could have this presentation. You could all then go away and think about whether you've got time and ability to apply for the 9th of March. That allows us to then put the application in front of our grants committee. Our grants committee then make the recommendation or approval to Finance Committee, and our Finance Committee then makes our recommendation to Council. So in terms of timing, our Council meeting we have is in end of May, I think is it?
Council is
end of May, 30th of May. We come back about a week. We normally have typically our Finance Committee meeting. So that means that if we get the applications in by sort of the 9th of March, we've got enough time in terms of process to go through the grant committee, Finance Committee, and then particularly if you're applying for an ASC grant, we can get it in front of Council. If you're not applying for an ASC grant, it's slightly easier. You just have to go through a 2-stage process, the Grant Committee and Finance Committee. And Finance Committee meets pretty much regularly every month, except we often take the July, May, and the August off if we don't need to. So that's the next deadline, 9th of March. So we'll go through the types of grants that you can apply for. So we have a series of grants. What are they useful for? It's anyone who's within either a parish or a mission or our cathedral who can apply for a grant that allows them to undertake some sort of work, and there are various categories that you're applying against. We have typically a maximum amount that we award is $15,000, and we have a bit of a budget this year, so it is on the first come, first served. And typically, once we've used that budget, we tend to shut down the grant process. And we do try to give priority so it's equitable to applicants who have perhaps not been awarded a grant in the prior 5 years. That's not always strictly the case. I think last year we didn't use all of the grants, so I think we did open up an extra round. So we are happy for, I think, those who have applied regularly to apply again. But you may find that you drop further down the pecking order if we've got other people or parishes that are applying that haven't applied for a while. And there are a series of categories that we link in, and we've got a couple I've mentioned there that talk about innovative ministry or diverse infrastructure. Most of the grants that we're getting are broadly for diverse infrastructure. We don't get a lot for other special projects or music and worship. They tend to be diverse infrastructure, maybe a bit of innovative ministry. And what we do say is they're not given for long-term unaddressed maintenance. That's the obligation of the parish. We're looking at providing some assistance for grants, which enables you to perhaps give some outreach or mission work that really gives, I guess, you kickstarts that project within your community. To the next slide. On top of the main diocesan synod mission grants, we created last year, which we trialled, which came out of I think a synod and then down to council, a grant that we called the diocesan evangelistic grant. So that was really an initiative where we were looking at focus on introducing Christ to the wider community and people. And that grant certainly was used last year for things like an Alpha course. That's an ideal opportunity. So there's about a bit. We decided that we'll keep the that grant for this year for 2026, and we assigned a smaller budget for it. So you've got two bites of the cherry this year. You could look at the diocesan synod mission grant or the diocesan synod evangelistic grant. And then I just wanted to highlight to you, we have some other grants that come through our Director of Mission and Ministry, that's Shawn. He has a small fund called a Missional Initiative Fund, where he allows parishes to apply to him directly. You don't have to go through the formal process of going through a grant committee and finance committee. He looks at smaller items where you may need just a bit of a kickstarter or a boost to help do some sort of effort. And usually, I think he approves up to $1,000 at a request. So, as I mentioned, contact Shawn. He's sitting there. And that's what Shawn's missional initiative grant is to get you going on some sort of initiative. If you have an idea, proposal, he'd love to hear from you. And he just generally, wants you to just give him a short summary of what that idea is, what a budget you're looking for, and how you deem it to be missional, and particularly if it's a new initiative, which is what I think he's considering, if I'm correct on that. Yeah.
Yeah, Phil, if I could just kind of tack onto that. Yeah. The one kind of caution that I remind all the parishes when I get a phone call or an email about it is, don't overthink it, particularly on this fund, because it really is about trying to help you go from an idea to implementation. And so, through this fund, we've been able to help a parish do a community-based bike rodeo one summer. We've helped another parish that wanted to really improve their ministry of hospitality. And so we were able to give a small amount so that they could actually kind of create a little coffee area in their entryway in the nave of their church, which I'm pleased to have been able to benefit myself from on a visit. And it's things like that where often we get I've got a great idea, but maybe it doesn't need significant amount of funding, but just a small way to kind of go from idea to implementation. And so there's the kind of boundaries are, how does it help your church engage the community in a missional way, and beyond that, it's kind of open. So I have yet to have an idea where I've said no, which is a good thing. Thankfully, no one's really gone kind of way off the wall, but we have been able to help. I think I totaled it up the other day, and we've helped about it in the last 2 or 3 years since we've had this fund. We've helped about a dozen different parishes, just again go from idea to implementing. So don't let your idea limit what you might be able to do.
Okay, thank you, Shawn. So what's required when you click on the page that we highlighted? I think it was on the second slide. You'll click on a link which says a consolidated application for grant and synod and loans, and it opens up a 6-page what looks like a 6-page PDF document. So it asks for some specific information, certainly the identity, the ministry context. It will ask for your project name, and also whether you're just requesting a budget or funding from the diocese, or whether you're looking to link it in with an AFC grant application at the same time. And then you'll go through a series of questions to consider around the description and timeline, what the likely project budget is. We will ask you for just giving us an idea of your income and expenses as a parish. We generally like to see that you've thought about that, and it's part of your overall missional objective. So vestry approval, forms of vestry approval minutes is helpful, and usually linking in with your territorial archdeacon and getting a recommendation from them is useful background to help support your application. So having got all that, and I'll just go down to look at the page. There are generally 3 categories that we link in that sort of match what the ASC are. So we have a category A. You can get a grant up to $5,000 where you don't need to match. If you're looking at slightly a bigger endeavour, you can apply for up to $15,000. Certainly for the ASC, for us, anything up to $15,000. If you're just asking for a diocesan synod grant, we'll give that grant. We don't necessarily need matching. If you're asking for an ASC grant, when you're looking at a slightly bigger program or project, they will usually want to see that you've got some sort of matching funding. And then just one to note is, for an ASC, you can get a slightly bigger project off the ground where you can apply to the ASC for up to $50,000, which we can do. Unfortunately, we have a limit on how many grants we can apply for ASC, and the number is 4 a year. So we generally can only apply for 2 every time we do it. So we do it twice a year, so 2 every quarter. If we apply on any one year for an ASC grant for $50,000, we cannot apply for any other ASC grants. So it precludes us from applying for some of the smaller grants. We've not applied for a category C grant from ASC for many years. We tend to go for the mid-range, which is the matching up to $15,000. So they tend to look at matching at 50%. If you're not going for an ASC grant, we generally, within the diocese, will approve a grants up to $15,000, where you don't necessarily need to be matching yourself. It'd be nice to see that you've made some endeavour to have some sort of form of fundraising, but it's not a requirement. So having done that, we'll give you a grant. We'll notify that you've got a grant. We'll then work to when we release that money. And we generally, at the end of completion of that particular project, we do like for you to perhaps give us a little bit of a report on what you've spent the money on, the accounting for the expenditure, how the project worked, whether it achieved your desired outcomes or not. And also just a point to note is if you requested a grant for an amount and you didn't spend it all, we do like to see that you return the unused funds. It's a grant to deliver that project. It's not a grant to deliver that project. You don't spend it all and you can use that money for operational purposes. It's a grant for that project. So if you do find that you underspend it, we do like to see the return of those unused funds. Thank you very much. Allows us to then recycle that money to other parishes who may request a grant. Okay, next slide, Cheryl, please. So as mentioned already, we provide grants. The thing to note, you can get through the AFC a loan. A couple of parishes have applied and have received loans over the years. And we have received loans of up to $100,000 from the AFC. As noted, a loan is repayable, a grant is not. So if you do find you maybe perhaps have some significant capital expenditure, and you don't know how to raise the money, you could apply to the AFC for a loan, and it will then go on a repayment basis. You will be obligated to repay that back to them. As I say, we've not had any in a couple of years, but we have. I'm aware of two AFC loans that we have within our diocese that we are repaying back either through a parish or through the diocese itself. And mentioned, there's a process that if you're applying for grants, we'll go through the Finance Committee and Diocese Council, particularly if it's an AFC grant, and we'll go through the Grant Committee and Finance Committee if it's just a diocesan synod grant. I think everything else, as I say, it's submitted. You can get the information from our portal. In terms of an AFC grant, I tend to manage that and become the gatekeeper. I've got an ability that I can now. We used to, I think, apply for them by email or slow mail. We've now got an ability that we can apply directly through a portal they've created. So I tend to get all the information, create the documentation, and then upload elements into that portal. So they'll generally have me as the named owner, and then I'll then notify as and when if those grants have been successful. I've already covered that. Mentioned certainly for AFC grants, there are generally 3 categories: up to 5, up to 15, with matching 50% funding, and up to 50,000, and then which are all grants given to you with no obligation to repay, or you can get a loan up to a maximum $100,000 where you will be obliged to repay. They tend to work on loans, I think, a 15 to 20 year payment cycle. So you've got a reasonable amount of time to repay back. Okay. And then the categories that we link in with the AFC, which are the categories that we ask you if you're applying for a grant with us, are these sort of general categories: diverse infrastructure. So we can tend to cover that. I mean, I think we've given ones for tarmacking car park at a church. That was a recent one I seem to record. If it's steeple repairs, roof repairs, that sort of reordering of, maybe church buildings, those sort of things, installing new bathrooms, those sort of things we've done either in, churches or rectories. So we cover those in infrastructure. Community mission ministries, obviously, if you're doing some project outside in the community, you're looking at widening your reach within the community. We're looking at those types of projects. If you've got some projects you want to look at in terms of leadership or education within your parish, we'll support those. We don't tend to get much around the Indigenous ministries, but that's obviously where you may have a link with some of the First Nations and you're doing some work or bodies or projects linking with them. We tend to not have a lot of applications through that. And similarly, there's sacred music and liturgical arts. We don't tend to get a lot of applications. But if you look at the application, it will give you a little bit more background as to what those will or won't cover. If we go, and that's similar for us and the AFC, if we go to the next page, Cheryl, I think you'll find that there's things that we don't cover. We typically don't cover for things, that maybe our repairs to stained glass windows, installation, anything that's operationally based, things like salaries, bridging finance, travel expenses to conferences and events. We tend to not cover that, and certainly the AFC won't. And they also generally do not award grants to individuals, hence why you tend to have to come through the organisation of the diocese. We can get it through that main mechanism. So we are looking really to help, give grants where it's helping to expand your reach, your ministry within your parish, within your community, expanding that, but not generally for operational purposes. Oh, that might have been the last slide, I think. We'll just go back. That was it. Okay. So that's a broad take on the grants process, where you can see to apply it. how to access the portal, what form you'll need to fill out. That's all available on the website and on through that presentation. So I'm going to stop there and just see if there are any specific questions that the group would like to raise.
Philip, do you have people applying for the diocese and the AFC 15,000?
Yeah, we do.
In parallel?
Yeah, we do that often. I can give you an example. We did recently a grant process application for Camp Medley. So we submitted an application for some funding from AFC, and they approved an element of that, and the rest of it is coming from a grant from Synod. So yes, we can do that. So it's not always a requirement, but we tend to try and look at what we look at is through this course of the year, we'll try and get the best opportunity to get those grants from AFC that we can do and try and promote those that we think have got a good success or rate of chance of being awarded. So we only get 4 bites of those a year. There's no limit on the number of grant requests we will receive for the synod or the diocese. It just depends on first come, first served, and whether we've used the budget up or not.
Thank you.
Might add, first come, first served doesn't mean first one in on a given deadline necessarily, but if they're used up in the first cycle, if the money's used up in the first cycle, there may not be a second.
Okay, so when is the AFC's submission date?
They tend to be every quarter. I try to link it in. It's usually the 1st of January, the 1st of April.
Yeah.
I think it's the 1st of July and October. 1st of October. And so we've got it back from that, because if we're submitting an AFC grant, we need council approval, we need finance approval, and go to the grant. So we typically only work to a cycle of 2 of those periods because it links in with our council meeting schedule.
So you do July and October then?
Well, I think we're looking at. We did
a January because it was left over.
Yeah, we did a January. It was left over. We got that in council in November. So I'm thinking the next one that would link in is probably going to be May, 30 May for council. That would be a July submission. Yeah, and then the one after that is probably going to be in the fall. Yeah.
So just to clarify, so the one for the AFC that's more for like maintenance and building things, that one is not due by March 9th. That one's a little later. This is all new to me, so
yeah.
No, you want me to? Yeah. No, so because applications to the Anglican Foundation have to go through the diocese. And in fact, it has to go through council. It has to be approved at DAS and council. So those are in the same that grant deadline is for, basically you don't have to decide if you're going to AFC or just to the synod. That's kind of the grant committee will make that final decision. So it's you apply by March 9th to the synod. The synod might choose to then say, well, this is a good candidate for the Anglican Foundation of Canada. Yeah. And then get it into their stream.
I thought on the application form, you put AFC or diocesan grant.
You
I
can.
think it's there, but
you can do, yes, or both. Yeah.
But it's fine. It's the synod grants committee decision in the end, because again, it's important to kind of send the ones that have the most likely chance of.
Okay.
Yeah. So
no, it's just okay. I understand, but it's just that 2 years ago I applied for the AFC one for a repair in the foundation wall that was cracked in the church. We had a flood, and I was too late. I applied because I knew April when you went on there. It told what the dates were for the AFC, so I applied in March because I knew April was and then but they had told me that the money was used up. So that year they used the money up in January would be.
Okay, they could well have, yeah.
Yeah,
They could have,
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
that must have got a lot of applications in January then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have those 4 cycles, and I have been aware that they have awarded grants certainly in the later part of the year. So they may well have had a very busy year that year.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
If it went on, but no parish can, sorry, through these category A to C grants, no parish can apply directly to the foundation. That being said, I also would mention there are 2 other categories of AFC. Well, there's actually an individuals category, which typically is for music studies or theology things. So, but they're Say Yes to Kids.
Yeah.
So your parish, if you have a kids, something to do with kids ministry, you can apply and to get on the docket, I guess. That tends to be one of these reality type show, vote for your favorite ministry. So it's basically they're creating a platform where people can donate to the ministry that they like. But it's worth getting on. If you have a ministry, it's worth then getting on the docket. And the diocese will get some of that, whatever's donated as well. And there is an RFP for Community Ministries Partnership. The RFP is the category of the Anglican Foundation grants, but they change the theme every year. So this year's Community Ministry Partnership, and I was going to look when the deadline is that. So you're sending a request for proposal accepted from, so it's in the fall, usually, where you can get up to 50,000. So if you have a big project, so that was last year, was community ministries. You saw the email about this year, do you remember?
Yeah. They're rethinking it.
Okay. So that may or may not come about in the fall, but that was another category to get specific for specific types of projects. So you can certainly pay attention to the foundation website as well to see what's there. But for these standard grants, got to go through the diocese. Yeah, the synod.
Okay, so the diocese would decide, like, I'm thinking in terms of, I was talking like maintenance, how they said the diocesan grants they're not given for like long-term maintenance or stuff like that. So if you wanted, I don't know, something done for, like, we need doors replaced or whatever, that the diocese wouldn't cover that. It would, then you would say that would have to go to AFC if we were applying for 5,000.
It's unlikely. We try not to give grants for where we think you've deferred maintenance because it's been an operational issue or budgeting issue. We're looking at trying to give grants for, I guess, helping to expand your missional outreach and your work in the parish and community. It's not to say that, if you come to say we've had a major steeple collapse, we need some repairs, we will certainly consider that. But you're less likely to get the grant committee approving something that they feel is more operational based and the parish should be managing that themselves.
It doesn't hurt to apply.
Yeah.
Because if you can make a case that you weren't, this is a kind of an unexpected maintenance expense, then if there's money.
In the past, we have worked with the applying parish in a situation like that, where we said this really isn't a mission grant, but it would fit as, and so we were able to consider possibly reducing the shared ministry contribution for a year or two, so that then you could pick that up. Part of the reason that the grants committee looks at all that is we've cultivated the relationships with the foundation. We kind of have a sense of what they're actually interested in supporting and giving. And so we really don't like to recommend to AFC unless we're fairly confident that they're going to say yes, simply because we don't want to lead a parish on. And so there is a lot of, and sometimes we're sitting there and saying, well, they've applied for this fund, but actually if we moved it to this fund, we could help them out, given that. So there is a lot of like advocate. We all kind of advocate in different ways for the parish when the applications happen. So
what would, under the AFC, diverse infrastructure include?
Let me read it here. Yeah, I have it.
It is
criteria for awarding grants. Diverse, do you have it?
I said they will consider traditional infrastructure projects, support accessibility improvements and green initiatives. What else? Creates an environment that will enhance I guess the aesthetics of the buildings, that sort of thing. So it sounds more, to my mind, of if you need to put a ramp in your parish hall or your church for accessibility reasons, sounds like they'll support that. If you want to put solar panels on your church hall because it's a green initiative, they'll support those sort of projects. I'll certainly look at
like
more favor.
And like a lift.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that sounds like an accessibility improvement project. Yeah, yeah. Anything that helps enhance your building for getting access in. Yeah.
I know last year one parish got a grant to be able to put a wheelchair accessible washroom on the sanctuary level of the church.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess if you've wanted to install a kitchen in the back of your church, which is a new initiative to help in after worship, they may consider things like that.
Yeah.
I think they're less likely to consider you wanting paint to repaint your church hall or your washrooms.
Yeah.
The foundation website does include all the grants they've given over the years, so you can look at those. It might be ideal there too. Oh, we need that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any last thoughts?
Yeah. So say we've got a current deadline of the 9th of March. So that's given you, is it a couple of weeks to look at putting a process in or application in? On that point, we'll close that. We'll then stand up a grant subcommittee who will look at applications. We've got one application in at the moment. So welcoming more in, there's space for more. We've, as I say, this will be the first, I guess, bite of the apple. We've not had any other applications in before now, so you'll be first in the queue in terms of accessing the budget for either the Synod or the AFC.
And I think I'd add that Philip will be happy to discuss your potential application. So if you have an idea and you want to talk to Philip or me or somebody, of course, Shawn's also happy to help, even beyond the small initiatives that he manages, to discuss, what's important to include or what's important to say. We're happy to help with those applications too.
Well, thank you.
The only other thing I'd add, Cheryl, is for the missional initiative fund, there's no deadlines.
Right.
So that's just like the deadlines are for the bigger ones, but the missional initiative, as the ideas pop into your head, reach out. Like it can be as simple as a couple of emails back and forth, and just what I need is why you're doing this. How is this engaging the wider community? In a kind of blessing type way. How is it sparking something new? And then the only thing that kind of takes the time after that is me remembering to put the check request in with Justin, our Synod accountant. I think I can comfortably say that that's the only time there have been delays in people getting the check is me thinking I've done it versus actual. But that's only happened a few times. So there's no deadlines on those ones. Just reach out anytime something pops into your head.
Okay, thanks all for joining us either live or those watching on the our YouTube channel, which is where we post these recordings. Again, I would invite everyone and spread the word. We're a guest, maybe even 2 guests from the Canadian Bible Society will join us next week because we are doing these on the 1st and the 4th. So we tend to get 2 in a row every few months. So from the Canadian Bible Society, who particularly wanted to thank the diocese and some parishes for supporting them and also letting us know what they're doing in ministry these days, particularly in New Brunswick and the Maritimes. So yeah, I would encourage everyone to join us next week so we have a good audience for them. In the meantime,
Okay.
Lenten blessings, and we'll see you again.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a nice day.
And
Bye-bye.
you. Thanks.